Labdien, cienījamie kolēģi! Patīkam jūs visus redzēt. Šodien varbūt mums tāds īpaši ordinārs pasākums, tāpēc es varbūt divus vārdus pateikšu ievadā, bet ja es arī kaut kur kļūdīšos, tad varbūt Toms Baumans man papildinās. Tad, pateicoties mūsu mecenātiem Borisam un Inārai Teķereviem un viņu dibinātām fondām, ir sākta jauna aktivitāte, kuras vārds varbūt nedaudz vārdos ir augstākās izglītības, ekscelences, kvalitātes stiprināšana. Vienkāršos vārdos runājot, Rīgas Stradiņa universitātes izglītība programma, izglītības vārda, tālāk ienešana Eiropas un pasaulē. Tātad fonda vadība ir piesaistījusi ekspertu kompānijas, kuras ar šo darbu nodarbojas. Es zinu, ka vairāki ar jums jau ir tikušies, dekānu padomi pārunājuši, šodien rektorāts 2 stundas cīnījās un atbildēja uz jautājumiem, tiek arī anketēt vairāk kā 1200 studentu, kas nepārāk labi mums ir, tas studenti ir diezgan neaktīvi. Tātad tiks pārnāts ar dažādām struktūru vienībām un darbiniekiem par problēmām un dažādām lietām, kas varbūt mūsu universitātei traucē vēl ieņēma Hārvardas vai Jēlas universitātes līmeni. Vienmēr mērķiem jābūt ir augstiem, jo zem mērķi viegli sasniedzam, un tad nav nekāda gandarījuma. Mērķiem jābūt ir augstam un varbūt arī kādreiz sasniedzamam, tāpēc arī īpaši jokojot piemin šīs divas pasaules slavās universitātes, uz kurām mums būtu jātiecas, jo, kā teica mūsu bijusī prezidenta Vaivīra Freiberga, mēs esam diženi, mēs esam ražani, mēs esam spējīgi, mēs varam. Un ja mēs paši sev asti necelsim, tad arī mēs uz priekšu nekur netiksim. Un pateicoties šai faktiski finansiālām un arī šādām metodiskām un dažādu citu veidu atbalstām, ir iesākts ļoti liels un nopietns darbs, kādā veidā mums tuvoties, lai apzinātu arī jau savu pašreizējo ekscelenci un kvalitāti, bet kādā veidā vēl vairāk un labāk tuvoties šīm manas nosauktām pasaules atzītām universitātēm, Rīgas Stradiņa universitātes vārdu, ienest Eiropas un pasaules apritē ar vēl lielāku nozīmi. Un šodien pie mums viesojās doktors Attila Pausits, kas ir nācis no Donavas, es saprotu, universitātē Krems, tas ir Austrija, un kurš vada tātad universitātes tālāk izglītības centru un ir zināms speciālists tātad par jautājumu par augstākās izglītības un augstākās izglītības kvalitāti Eiropā. Un tātad doktors Attila Pausits šodien piedāvā mums angļu valodā 1 stundas lekciju. Please, close up you. Please, 1 hour for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, my language skills are limited, but at least I catch the words like Harvard and excellence. So I think this is the right place to discuss such developments in Europe this time. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity and your time coming to this Monday afternoon meeting or presentation. I was asked to give you some hints or information regarding the developments in higher education, the changes related to higher education in Europe. But before I start, let me tell you about my background. I'm a head of the Center for University Continuing Education and Educational Management at the Danube University, which is a kind of think tank in 2 or 3 topics related to lifelong learning, to higher education development, and the relationship and engagement between higher education and regions and regional development. My university is quite similar to your university because we have also 6,500 students. We are a bit different because the average age of our students is 40. And this is not caused because they are so bad that they are not able to finish their studies, but because they are professionals and they just start a second or even a third cycle of their learning pathways. So my university, even though it's a state university, established 16 years ago in Austria as the 22nd state university. By the way, we have 22 state universities, 19 universities for applied sciences, and another 11 private universities for also a small country. So the average is 40 because they have 10 years working experience when they come back again to a university. And just a short story, why Austria got the 22nd state university. Because Lower Austria, which is one of the 9 regions of Austria, didn't have a university in the 80s. And the government, the local government, decided they want to have a state university. Of course, the other 21, it was a time after many universities decided to split medical education and the comprehensive university. So at the end of the 80s, we created some more universities dedicated to medical education. They were not really interested to share the cake with another state university. So they said, we are not really interested to have another competitor in Austria. What I learned when I moved to Austria in 2000, there is always an Austrian solution. And the solution is, in this case, that while Lower Austria got a higher education institutions, but with a special mission, which is continuing education. So we offer, if you like, only postgraduate programs, mainly master degrees, part-time programs, and now so it was the good news. The bad news is 80% of our funding is coming throughout third party. So only 20% is coming from the state and another 80% throughout the market. So far to my background, I started with this and also with my institutions because even though I'm a researcher on higher education, as a member of a university, I live within the system as well. And even I'm representing, or at least as we try to call ourselves an entrepreneurial university, we also face some challenges, if you like, within these changes. The second point, what I would like to raise is I am guilty. As far as I know, your country got 1995 a new higher education law, right? Was it 1995? Some of my colleagues told me that partly it was translated for Austrian higher education law, which was introduced in 1993. So since we, and also your higher education system, did some developments, but it seems that the roots are quite common if you look to Latvia or to Austria. Since we had, I think, 2 or 3 new higher education acts, and moving in a direction which is, I think, quite common in Europe, in the direction of autonomy. And what I try to do this afternoon, I will try to explain what this autonomy means and what not. Because there are some fairy tales. If you ask your colleagues at the ministry, or at least when I do it in Austria and other countries, they say, well, you have to be lucky, because now you are able to do what you want to do. In the past, you was not able to do that. When I talk to rectors, they say, well, this autonomy is very nice, but we would need more money to fulfill it. So there is a kind of chicken and egg discussion going on. On the other hand, we did some work looking at a European level, because I mean, I think all of you are engaged in Bologna, more or less, right? I mean, Bologna is one process of harmonization, but we still have national systems in Europe. So we are not really able to compare Latvia with Austria. If I may use the word dean, the word means a different person with different responsibilities in Austria or in Latvia. So I'm just saying this because I'm going to use these words, but please understand as a kind of collection of these different types of actors within the higher education system in Europe. Because we do not have really much time, so I try to catch up some starting points, which are, I think, quite familiar to you. Then I try to give some reflection, a brief one on the modernization agenda, coming throughout the European strategy 2020, and then come back again to some institutional aspects and solutions, what I see are important when we are facing these new challenges and changes. Clark, a fellow from Harvard, so we didn't discuss this before, but I'm just coming again back to Harvard, wrote 2002 that universities survived because they changed or because they resisted change. We all know that besides church, higher education institutions or universities are the oldest organizations which we know. All the others disappeared time by time. And the question is why? Is it because we are able to adapt, we are able to change, or this is because we don't change? Another fellow, Mike Shattock, a registrar from Warwick University, one of those universities which are, if you take a book on modern higher education management, you will find the case of Warwick, because Warwick was in a very bad shape at the end of the 80s. And also throughout Mike Shattock's work, they moved to a kind of entrepreneurial, good-placed higher education institutions in England. And he says that successful universities are successful primarily because of their teaching and research, and not because of their management. In the last years, also in Europe, we put a lot of discussion on management and the improvement of management of higher education institutions. Why? The explanation for this is quite simple. Because the government is giving to us money and asking us to telling them how did we use it. The magic word is accountability. So what we need, we have to be more accountable. We have to be more efficient. We have to be more effective in our business, in that what we are doing every day. This is the reason why, and this is what I not wrote down, we also say that universities are not famous because of their willingness to change, but because of their teaching and research. So, in my perception, management, or higher education management, is the vehicle to do what we have to do, which is teaching and research. And there is something else as well. I'm coming back to this 1 second later. But just to clarify, even though I have a business administration background, I am not here to tell you that management is the most important part of a university. This is not true. The most important is our work, our core business, our core mission, which is teaching and research. There is also something else, which got a quite high attention in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years in Europe, but also globally, is the so-called third mission. Besides first and the second, teaching or research, somebody would say first is research and the second is teaching, or vice versa. But there is something else as well, the so-called third mission. What is it? In the projects in the last 3 years, we tried to identify this third mission, what it really means. We have different solutions for that, and because, as I said at the very beginning, we are so different from country to country, it's not easy to catch this third mission. But we figured out that there is something additional to the first two, based on these first two, which is related to knowledge transfer, which is related to continuing education, but which is also related to social engagement and the role of higher education institution in regional development. What we also see that we have to leave the ivory tower. We have to deliver our services. And this is, I'm coming back again to the issue of accountability. Also the government is asking us about the services. Services of teaching, services of research. And more, and this is also mentioned in the 2020 strategy of the EU, a new buzzword came in, employability. There is a very intensive discussion in the last years, at least in German-speaking countries where they have this dual system. Universities one hand and universities of applied sciences on the other hand. So, and the self-understanding of a university is, or would be, we are preparing our graduates for life and not for a certain job. Compared to the University of Applied Sciences, because they have to prepare their graduates for the job, for a company. Well, with Bologna, this system is going to be changed. So we are asked by the European Commission, but also by our governments, to make our graduates more employable, if you like, at least after the bachelor. So the idea is that they should leave the higher education institutions for years, and then after that they should come back again and finish with a master's. Is it the reality? Is it the reality in your country? No. Is it not the reality also in my country? This is the reason why the minister started just 2 years ago a campaign to increase the number of those that are leaving the university from 12% up to 25%. The problem is twofold. One, the university is not really interested to leave the students, because if we have once the students, we would like to have them again. And who ensures this that will they come back again to us? So if they are with us, they should stay with us. They should finish the program. One. Second, we are also blaming Bologna that the cycle, to split up, and especially I think in your case, this is the reality. After 3 years, you are not able to prepare employable graduates, right? So this is the second aspect. The third aspect is if, and this is coming from policymakers, maybe you remember that the EU is looking for the knowledge society. The EU is suggesting that we have to increase the number of academics in our society to be able to reach the goals of knowledge creation, and therefore we should increase the number of academics. I don't know if you follow the international developments in higher education, but just last week Hungary introduced a new policy telling their citizens, but also the European Union, that they are going to decrease the number of state-funded places in higher education. They are going to decrease the number of programs by 30%, which is quite high. And the reason, they say, the quality is poor in many cases, and because the country is not prepared to get so many graduates from higher education institutions. Another example is Croatia, where the graduates, 80% of the graduates are unemployed. And the state takes over the responsibility to take these kids or young people from the street and put them in the school, even though they know that after 4 or 5 years they are unemployed, that they will not find a job in their position. Well, if you look, I mean, in the list, this is, if you like, a kind of set of reasons why we are moving from a university, as we know, the Humboldtian idea of freedom for research and education, into something new. In the UK, they call it corporate university. So they would like, or they highlight this issue of corporate, meaning that we need professional management to be able to meet all these goals which are mentioned in this slide. At the same time, we see some new activities like excellence initiatives in Germany, in France, but also in Spain. They try to support some of these higher education institutions to be competitive to US universities or to Chinese universities, because we know that because of the massification of higher education, we will be not able to fund the higher education system as we did in the past. The conclusion of this is there will be winners and there will be losers. And I try to use this word losers not in a negative sense, but what is happening these days that the universities are forced to identify their strategy, their profile, and also to be not like all the others, but try to be different. And as far as I got the information from your university, you try to be different, and I think this is also what is needed when we are talking about strategy development, when we are talking about profile, or when we are talking about diversification of the higher education system in Europe. Even though we try to harmonize throughout the direction of autonomy, the direction of Bologna, in the same time we have to diversify because of the market orientation and because of the market needs. If you are interested in the third mission, you could read our report or visit our website e3mproject.eu, or just read the Russell report, which is from the UK, to try to identify this. I'm not saying about new buzzword, but there is there's a new attention which is dedicated, besides the first and second mission, to some additional activities. And if you look to the list on the right side, the third stream activities, I think you will find many of them already existing at your university. But maybe you will find also some which are not in place yet. So, what is coming through the modernization agenda in the EU? First, the European higher education is underperforming compared to the US. Second, we do not have enough people participate and graduate higher education. Third, we do not enough for lifelong learning. Fourth, higher education is too fragmented, over-regulated and underfunded. And last but not least, curricula are not adapted to the needs of the labor market, the buzzword employability. So these are somehow the major challenges which are identified at European level. And I think if you look to your national system, I think you would say that most of these aspects are also in place, or at least as a question mark, as a challenge in your country. Just some figures. What we have to do as a member of the European Union, we have to increase from 69 to 75% of our population to be employed. We have to look 3% of the GDP, which should be invested in R&D and innovation. You know that not many countries today reach this. What's about Europe? Is below, I think it's below 2%, something like that. Above? 0.5? It's a long way to go, right?
Okay.
Then, issue of the early school leavers. I skip this one. And then another issue of social exclusion. What the EU 2020 strategy telling us is that we have to increase the quantity of higher education graduates at all levels. Means we have to reduce the dropout. Second, we have to enhance of the quality and relevance of human capital development in higher education, employability. We have to look and we have to create effective governance and funding mechanisms in support of excellence. We have to strengthen the knowledge triangle between education, research and business. And this is somehow the driving force for Brussels. This triangle and cooperation between education, research and the business sector. EU is, you may know that after 2014 there will be new funding streams. One is called Horizon after FP7, and another is Erasmus for all. And within these streams, the so-called knowledge alliances, the relationship and partnership between higher education or education and business sector will be a key element of the funding stream. And last but not least, internationalization of higher education. You are very lucky because many of your, many of other higher education institutions would love to have this percentage of international students, but they are not able to reach it. Maybe because of the discipline. The solution, so what should we do? Bologna, we are all aware of it. Governance reform, this is an ongoing process, and the funding reform is also an ongoing process. I'm not saying that Bologna is already finished, but this is something maybe which we are much more familiar with than with the governance or recommended reforms. Let me give this slides and come to the institutional perspective. So what does it mean for us, the new EU 2020 strategy, or what does it mean to us, these new developments in higher education? The starting point is still that we have a fragmented and loosely coupled organization as a university with very different performances. So if you look to MIT, we look at it as a star, right? But MIT has also parts which perform very poor. Just visit the open learning space of the MIT website and you will find very poor educational materials as well. So not everything that is coming from MIT is high performance. We have then also a kind of challenging task which is related to the organization and to the discipline. So if somebody asking you where you come from, you would, I think, say first, I'm a doctor, I'm an economist. And second, I would say I'm from the Danube University. Because this is an academic attitude that our first understanding belongs to the discipline. And second is the organization. So this is a kind of, challenge what we have to face when we are talking about changes within the organization. Third, the conflict between academia and the administration. So we have these two different types of employees within the organization. Different languages, different rules, but still at the same university. And this is also what we have to understand, and when it comes to changes and developments, we have to deal with it. I always said the idea of Humboldt is over. We got some kind of managerial boundaries, and we have to negotiate between these. The freedom, research and teaching, and on the other hand, some, if you like, managerial goals to deliver key performance or to meet key performance indicators, to agree with the ministry on goal performance, and so on. And last but not least, it's not enough to develop strategies. It is important to implement them. What we see that in the last decade, higher education institutions performing quite well when it comes to strategy development. But still the implementation is poor. Why? Because of these conflicts that I just mentioned before, or because it's not enough if you change the law, but you not develop new competences and skills within the organization. An example, the administration in the past, it was only a hand of the ministry to execute the law, right? Today, we are talking about managers. We are not talking about administrators. We are talking about people that are able to use this freedom of autonomy to design new processes, to identify new markets, to develop new curricula based on market needs, and not only based on the interests of certain professors, and so on. I'm coming back again to the issue of accountability. I had a talk with one vice rector responsible for continuing education. And she was very proud to telling me that they develop every year 30 new master's programs in continuing education. But when I asked him how many of them are really living programs, they are not only developed but also implemented, he said 3. Well, if I may say, why do you develop 27 programs for the table? I said, well, this is a good idea. Maybe we should work on that. In our case at the Danube University, when we apply with a new program, we have to add also market analysis for our Senate. Telling them where our target audience is, telling them about our competitors, so where are the other programs, and how perform they? What kind of study fees do they require, and so on. So we see here also a kind of professionalization in doing the activities what we did before. Most of these elements are, I think, already mentioned from Living the Ivory Tower. I just would like to catch up some of these elements, bottom heavy. Even though the top management of the university got more power throughout these reforms in the last decade, but still universities are bottom heavy. The power is the top, but the implementation and the work is at the bottom. And if you are not able to meet, to agree, to decide together, that will be a disaster, or you will be not able to move forward and develop. We also see some changes in the student population. I don't know about your country, but I think that you will face also the issue of aging society in one hand, and on the other hand, decreasing birth rates. So how to deal with it? I just catch up an article about the situation in Poland, which was quite dramatically, because within 10 years, 30 million students are less altogether in Poland. So this would lead to new developments. I mean, if you look across Europe, you see many higher education institutions are merging, Germany and France, because they are just too close to each other, because they offer the same things, but sometimes because the government decided we don't need 4 universities within our region, we need only 3. So this is also something which is came into, at least it's our table, most of the countries, the issue of mergers. And then, of course, how to deal with it from the institutional point of view. So if you don't want to merge, how to avoid it. So you need a strategy, you need a solution. On the other hand, when we are talking about autonomy and the responsibility, high responsibility to the top management, you need also additional services or functions like management information systems. So in the past, the ministry decided for you. Today, you have to decide for yourself. But how? How can you make the right decision if you don't have the right information, if you don't have the right data? This is something what we see in many higher education institutions in the last 3-4 years, that many of them implemented new IT solutions like management information systems. There is also a danger of instrumentalism, because everybody is doing, let us doing as well, let's implement such a system. But immediately, if you use such an IT solution, your processes are standardized, because the system putting you in certain direction, which is, in one hand, good, because now you are able to run the processes, hopefully in a good way. But at the same time, you are just like the others. And the question is that what we want to do? What we also see, the changing mode of delivery. The biggest university in the world, the University of Phoenix, 500,000 students. 500,000 students. The mode of delivery is totally different because they work with a virtual faculty. They deliver most of the classes throughout e-learning, so it's a different mode. But there is also a different type, which is coming also to Europe, because higher education is getting more and more international. Not because of the Bologna process and the recognition of degrees, but also because of the mode of delivery. So, Open University in the UK is not only one competitor for, in the future, for a university like our in Krems. Another quite dangerous development is the rise of for-profit higher education. Coming from the US again, already existing in the UK, and you see, or you know, there's only one jump from UK to continental Europe. So the question is, how are we going to deal with this? Let me give you a scenario. In the next 5 years, Germany will be not able to fund all the universities, and there is going to sell one. And a for-profit higher education institution is coming in and say, well, I'm going to buy your university. Is it a scenario possible? Maybe, maybe not. But I just want to highlight that there are many developments which happening these days which were not really in the past in place, because I'm not saying that we were on the safe side, but the issue of massification, the crisis, the funding issue leads or pushing us in a direction of more accountability and also to find certain solutions. And I know that also your university has to deal with these issues in a proper way when it comes to funding. The last bullet point, again, it's all about accountability, effectiveness and efficiency. Some of our rectors already in Austria are telling, we don't need more autonomy. We would like to give it back because we can't use it, because we do not have enough funding coming from the state. In an Austrian case, it's 80 to 20, so 80% is coming to us from the state, and only 20% from the market. They say, well, we are not able to use it. And what happened, in fact, in the past we had the enemy at the ministry. Now we have the enemy within the organization, at the university, because everybody blaming the rector, why do we not have enough money? The rector say, well, now we have the possibility to attract money. Let's do something in continuing education. This is a place where we can earn money. Or just let us do more research, funded research. Well, this is a nice story, but if you do research, you are aware that this is not about making money. It's about creating knowledge. The third mission is a kind of solution for this, to attract more additional funding for contract research. But if I may say, if we are state universities, we are also responsible for the society and not only for the money. So if we want to do research, then it's not only because the market is looking for. I'm not saying this is wrong. This is also the right way to open up, to leave the ivory tower, to talk to the business, to develop new solutions. But on the other hand, there are other activities which are also needed for the society, also at research level, but also in education, which has to be done. And this is not only an issue of business. Many of my colleagues asked me when they started to establish continuing education activities at their universities, how to do it. Because they were asked by the rector to start with continuing education, and every year they have to deliver 1 million euros to the university as a kind of profit center. And I told them, when you start with continuing education, it's not about making money. It's about a portfolio, of course. There are some activities, you can make money, you can earn profit, but then are some other activities which has to be done without even making the break even or earning money. Let me move up, speed up a bit. So these are the list, I think, you are familiar with the areas of changes, and there's a long list. There is a long list, and I may come back again to the sentence, universities are not famous because of their willingness to change, but because of their research and education. Then you see there is a long task, not only for directorates, but also for middle management. This is what we miss in many of our discussions, that if we move the power to the top management, it can't be done only by the top management, this work. So the management has to deal with the deans, so the responsibility, but also the pressure on the deans and the faculties are increasing. And I think this is also a very important element of this discussion. So it's not only about the top management, but also about the middle management, but about the skills and competences. One colleague of mine became a dean at the university, and he told me, you know, Attila, it is a challenging position and I really love it, but it's like a flu. From one day to another, I just got it. I was not prepared for it. I became a dean without moving up like a traditional way in a career step. So be prepared for this position. And I am dealing with issues which I'm not prepared, and this is a very challenging one. And this is the reality. Let me just come back to this. Can you read it? No. It's a wonderful excuse to move and leave this slide to the handout. It's just a report on the different or the changes in terms of autonomy, which are more autonomous. So where are the areas of our work with more autonomy in the last 5 years and less autonomy and no changes? And the was in blue. These are the more, so getting more autonomy in the past 5 years. The second color, the dark one, is less autonomy, and the third one are no changes. So we see there is a autonomy movement in every area, from the financial management into also the educational and academic issues. I like this picture because when we're talking about universities, we start talking about these trees and these solutions, that there are many different pictures on an institution. So even though we are talking about the university, there are many implementation of this already in place. Because time is ticking, let me just give you some results of a recent published study by the European University Association. They took a look on the institutional autonomy in 4 dimensions: organizational autonomy, financial autonomy, staffing autonomy, and the academic autonomy. These are the indicators, and you can download the publication, or we can also send it to you, just to show you where Latvia is. Organizational autonomy, how is your country doing? Let me see. Did you find it? 14. So, middle. Financial autonomy. Doing well, number 4. Compared to, compared to other states, I think it's quite good, right? So you are able to decide on your financial issues, quite independent. When it comes to staffing, so HR responsibility, your country is? So still, I would say, performing well. Academic autonomy. You have to look down, 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 down. 20. So this is the report, as I said, published by the EUA. I mean, we can discuss this is true or not. The point is that what's going on in Europe, that we are going to map the field. There are certain initiatives, for example, to implement a European ranking based on our European values to compete with Shanghai. Because it seems that for some, at least for some politicians, rankings are important. So let's do it our European one. There's another project related to the classification of higher education institutions, like called UMAP, where the European Union, like the Carnegie classification in the US, try to identify certain groups of higher education institutions to compare lemons not with apples, Harvards not with Krams, for example. So this is also an activity which is going on also in the future at European level. What are the challenges what we face? And I try to put it in 4 dimensions. We have the issue of the human challenge. So how to get this attention for these changes within our organization. So how to bring the administration and the academics into the same boat to start the journey together. So we need people that are able to lead this change. But we need also certain personal development within the organization which are supportive to these new skills and competencies. This is one of the reasons why we started a new program, an Erasmus program on higher education research and management just recently, funded by the European Commission, where our students spend 1 semester in Krems, 1 semester in Finland, in Tampere, 1 semester in China, in the Belgian Normal University, and 1 semester then back again in Europe, in Osnabrück. The idea is to develop a new type of agents which are able to support these changes. They are able to speak both languages. They are able to use instruments and deal with these new challenges. And we run already a master's in higher education management for 7 years at the Danube University. And what we see, that more and more young people coming in, joining this program, because they see a potential career pathway for them within the higher education institutions. And I think this is a good news. This is what is important for us to get these change agents. They are helping us to improve. Of course, we have, as I mentioned, the issue of implementation within the organization is a challenge. Then we have some structural challenges because this fragmented, loosely coupled system of within the organization. I'm not saying kingdoms, but in many countries, the dean of faculty is more powerful than the director. Then we face also some structural problems. So to put these elements and units together to move in the same direction. And then finally we have, I put it in the last one, but it should be the first one, some strategic problem of institutional leadership. So we can do these changes as business as usual. This is, I think, the leadership challenge, that we need a new type of leadership which leads these changes within the organization. And there is a kind of handout in a paper on leadership and culture, which I wrote with a colleague of mine, especially on this issue. And let me just make one statement. What we have to save is the academic habitus within our organization. This is the core. This is important. This is our university. And what I mean by academic habitus is this discursive way of academic freedom, of discussion, creating new ideas, creating innovations. And this is what we have to facilitate and support. But on the other hand, we need leaders. They lead the road. They lead the team. But at the end of the day, we need a decision. And we need a decision which is workable. We tend many times to force or try to find the best solution. And this is a big difference between a company and the university. The university is looking always for the best solution. The company is looking for a workable solution. And sometimes the second best is better than the first, which is came too late. All right. 5 more minutes. Is this okay? Thank you very much. So what we learned, or what we see as a lesson learned, that we have to open up, and we have to leave the ivory tower how to do it. We have to look on the stakeholder value. This is what the EU tried to transform in terms of employability. We have to do some market research, which are also something new to higher education institutions. We have to bring in this entrepreneurial spirit and culture within the organization. So don't talk about problems. Let's focus on solutions. This is what we also try to do every time. Before we move, we criticize. We are telling why it's not working. I think we need also a common language and understanding for this management part, which again, a vehicle. And this is not the core, but this is a supportive aspect which is needed. Quality of services. We have to understand our organization as a service organization. Higher education, or education itself, depends not only the quality of the professors, not only how to deliver the lecturer, but also on the quality of the students. The result is based on this interaction between these two and supported services of the university. And this is then the output or impact of our work. It's not like a hairdresser, that you go there and your involvement is just sitting there, and the result will be how good you look is how your hair and your head is. It's much more. It's an interaction between students, between the university and the academics. While professional management is needed, as I said, and what we also see is a kind of buzzword again, from teaching to learning. So we have to move our focus. This is what's also coming through our OECD learning outcomes project, to look on the results, not on the input, but what is important is what's coming out. So therefore we have to move our focus from teaching to learning. Conclusions. I pretty much followed the EFQM approach, or the topics which I appreciate compared to ISO, because I think it's much more familiar to higher education institutions, because EFQM gives us a kind of evolutionary process instead of standardized steps like the ISO. So what we need new career pathways. We need to educate our new leaders in different levels, and we have to open up and create these career pathways, make higher education more attractive as an institution. We need also a new type of these higher education leaders. It's not a honorary job anymore to be a dean or to be a rector. It's a management position. It's a leader's position. We see a lot of changes related to governance, some good and some bad, but is definitely the diversification of higher education. is already happening, in fact. We need the people, the right people for this. There is, if you like, an higheducationmanagement.eu site where we did some research and work on recent developments in Europe related also to the needs, so what we need to learn. Partnership and resources, funding is elemental, but we need also financial management. We have to know, to make the right decision, how much costs a student in our program. We have to know how much costs a lecturer, 1 hour of lecturing at our university. Otherwise we will be not able to make the right decisions. And last but not least, processes. Re-engineering, 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 re-engineering. We have to move, we have to change, we have to adapt. I'm not saying that this is everything is wrong with us, but because of these changes, we have to create an adaptive organization. Open to changes. Sometimes we have to be fast, sometimes we have to be slow, but the issue is the ability to this change. Here, just really the first point, what we also see, that we move from a seller's to a buyer market. This is the reason why you offer on YouTube a video for foreign students, because you want to do some marketing to attract them. We see that the monopoly situation of higher education institutions, not all because the University of Phoenix or Open University, but because of these demographic changes is changing. So we have to do more for market orientation. And maybe just the last point here, what we have also to improve is the mentality of, I call it, driving through university. So not only looking for students coming in, doing something and leaving, and we never see them again. What we need is lifelong learning partnerships when it comes to funding, when it comes to lifelong learning activities, when it comes to fundraising. These are potentials. These are potentials what we have to use. When it comes to so-called knowledge alliances, our alumni is our credit for the future. And therefore I think it's important to take care of them, not only on those in these years when they are at the university, but also afterwards. Success is not straightforward thing. It's a long way, right? And I think this is what we face in our everyday business. And let me finish with one quote from Peter Stradiņa from Fifth Discipline, related to learning. The fear of not looking good is one of the greatest enemies of learning. To learn, we need to acknowledge that there is something we don't know, and to perform activities that we are not good at. I think, let me stop at that point. I'm very sorry that I took so much time, much more than as I was asked for. I hope that you get at least some stimulative ideas, and of course many of these ideas has to be discussed. I'm not saying that there is only one road leading to Rome. There are many, and I hope that your university will find the good one, not the best one, remember. Maybe the good one is also the best one, not only at the rectorate level, but also at all unit level in the future. Here are my contacts, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask right now, or via email, or via Skype, or just give me a call. Thank you very much. Thank you.